I just read Steve's most recent paper on this information order, which I thought was wonderful and more detailed even than your terrific introduction. And I have loads of questions, but I don't know how many I can ask you because I know we don't have a lot of time. Maybe I'll cut down to two. One of the points I liked best about your paper with Lance Bennett is you talked about how this isn't actually just a problem of information or misinformation. It's really also about a sort of breakdown of our political system, that the parties are no longer, I think you said, mechanisms for meaningful citizen engagement. I was wondering if that might be a good place to sort of start this conversation.
Yes, thank you. And again, congratulations on the human interests. Really fascinating. I think the way of looking at it is that there is what Lance Bennett and I are arguing in the article that you're talking about, which is not in the special issue that we will talk about, is that there is a deeper level to the question of supply side challenges. Our argument there is that there's been a systematic set of quite conscious attacks in some of the liberal democratic institutions found in the West, whether it's here in the United States or in Europe. Some of it has to do with not what clever Russian bots are doing, but rather what some civil society organizations here in the United States have been up to. You think about, for example, if we live in a post-fact world, where else have you encountered information campaigns that have systematically attacked the integrity of facts? Well, as Americans, we've seen that with attacks on questions about climate change. Do the facts really matter? If you're old enough, you may remember that with respect to cigarettes. Do cigarettes really cause? So the idea of sowing doubt as a mechanism for producing political outcomes isn't something that's new, even though it feels new. We're talking about it a lot now, but it's actually been with us for a very long time. And that's what Lance talked about in that particular article, which is in the European Journal of Communication.
Yeah, really worth reading, actually. And, well, there's a bunch of interesting academic points there that we don't have time for. One of the things we talked about on email, I don't know if everyone's seen that Kathleen Hall Jameson just has a new book out in which she argues, she did a huge amount of, she looked at a lot of different data, survey data, polling data, and she looked at the effect of how people's ideas changed after the debates. And her argument is that a lot of the Russian disinformation persuaded people because it reinforced things that Trump was saying in the debates. So if you look at the percentage of people who trusted Hillary before Trump said she was untrustworthy in the debate, and then it changed after the debate. So her point is it's not just the disinformation, it was the disinformation reinforcing other things that were happening during the campaign. I see Jonathan's already thinking, so I hope you'll. But I was wondering, Steve, if what you think of that research. You probably haven't had time to read the book, but the New Yorker had that huge article that we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, that I quoted, unfortunately. But Jane Mayer is a good friend. It's an interesting article. In this particular journal piece, I think one way of picking up what you're saying is there's more than the two that I identified, but I talk about two kinds of types of disinformation, or two objectives, if you will. One, you could understand as social cohesion attacks, ways in which the point of the influence campaign is to exaggerate, to deepen pre-existing social divisions within the U.S. So you find with some of the Russian campaigns, it was to widen the divide amongst African Americans and whites in this community by engaging with the Black Lives Matter, but making it more extreme. That's one sort of approach. I think that's probably what Kathleen Hall Jameson is talking about most clearly there. But this special issue emerges out of a conference that I organized at George Washington University with the support of Carr Center at Harvard and GW and World Bank Group. And what we were interested in that particular conference was actually expanding this conversation that we Americans anyway tend to want to, as Americans tend to want to do, make it about ourselves. And say, well, wait a minute, this is a global phenomenon, and it also has other manifestations. It's just not about the last American election. It's not just about the next American election. We were also interested in the way in which disinformation campaigns emerged with war crimes, with human rights abuses, with the dawning of MH17, for example. Disavow responsibility for, or the series of chemical weapons attacks in Syria that Assad has done, and they every time there's a use of either chlorine or sarin gas, you can almost be sure, or not just in Syria, sometimes in the UK too, that it's going to be followed by a wave of disinformation. So in that journal that we're interested in, or in the conference that became the journal, we were interested in also understanding what does that situation produce? What kind of disinformation exists there? And it's a little different. I'm looking forward to hearing what my colleagues would say about this. Ben is sitting here and has tremendous knowledge about this. But I think the effort is to put out so many versions, so many alternative versions of what happened, that it creates cognitive overload. People just throw their hands up and say, I don't know what happened. And let's just forget about it. So there's social cohesion attacks, but then there's also this cognitive overload effort. And we could get into the citations out of social psychology about how both would work. But then my question then would be, well, what are the other kinds of disinformation that one finds in this space in these moments?
Zach, do I have time for one more question? Is it allowed?
Yes.
Yep. I'll put my hand up at 1 minute, and then there will be an alarm.
I'm going to go for one more question.
You're good.
I will cede the floor to all the other wonderful people in the room. You said you're planning another conference now, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about persuasion and some of the things that will come up at that conference.
Yeah, so on Thursday we have contentious narratives too at George Washington. Yeah, we lack imagination. But it's just a one-day conference, not nearly as ambitious as the one that Zachary and the team here was involved in. And a part of that conference, Ben is giving the keynote of that particular one. But the second panel, so the first panel is, here are the problems. And then the second one, what are the solutions? I really wish we had invited you, because this talk that you gave is spot on. But we're also, though, excited to have PolitiFact, the managing editor of PolitiFact, will be there pursuing the idea that you can correct factual mistakes somehow. We have Donia O'Sullivan from CNN, who covers this beat from CNN. Then we have a colleague of mine, Ethan Porter, who's a political psychologist who's involved in this. This is going to come out in a conversation I'll have here in a while, with this idea that if all we have to do is put out the correcting information, we'll be fine. Some of the social psychologists would say that's not true, because there's this blowback effect or backfire effect, where in fact you just deepen the disinformation. So you have to be careful in thinking.
That's right, absolutely. Well, I just finished a huge literature review where I read 70 years of media persuasion literature, and I know it was my gift.
Were you persuaded?
It was my gift. So you're absolutely right. It's very elusive, and we're not really sure how to fix it. Once the trust is gone, once people believe things are totally untrue, how do you get that